Hello. Perfect. All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the Talent Talks podcast, the show where we go deep on the mental, emotional, and spiritual journey of entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Paul Drake-Verge, aka Pavlodar Svitolsk-Nashuk, the Ukrainian maestro. I am the founder of Wildwood Caps and the co-founder of Talent Trails, where we help businesses scale through affordable international talent. Today, we're thrilled to have a truly remarkable guest, Aaron Spivak, a visionary entrepreneur who's reshaping the way we think about health, wellness, and the power of a good sweat. Aaron is the co-founder of Revitasize, an organic cold-pressed juice kitchen serving up health and wellness in a bottle, and Hush Blankets, a company that's not just selling weighted blankets, but is revolutionizing the way we sleep and heal. From squeezing oranges to ensuring you get the best sleep of your life, Aaron's journey is nothing short of inspiring. In today's episode, we'll explore Aaron's entrepreneurial path from the inception of his groundbreaking ideas to the challenges and victories he's encountered along the way. We'll delve deep into how the commitment to health and wellness has not only propelled his business success, but also inspired a movement towards a healthier, more mindful way of living. So whether you're an inspiring entrepreneur, a health enthusiast, or someone in search of inspiration to kickstart your own journey towards success, you're in the right place. Let's get ready to peel back the layers of Aaron's entrepreneurial spirit, uncover the seeds of his innovative ventures, and discover what truly makes to turn passion into a thriving business. That was a mouthful, but Aaron, welcome back to the podcast after those technical difficulties. How are you doing today, man?
Doing all right. Thank you for having me.
Amazing. So I just want to give a quick little background about how I actually met Aaron, how this came to pass. And actually, I didn't tell you, but I did make a bit of a documentary for how I ended up getting this. So I'll show you this later.
That's awesome.
But essentially what happened was Ali was a good friend of mine. I knew one of my friends, Cam, from college, from university. And Ali told me that he was basically being mentored by you at some point. I think it was a few years ago.
Yeah.
So I started following you there, and then I kind of related to a bit of our stories because our parents are both immigrants. I'm not sure if you're an immigrant. I came from Ukraine. My mom was quite very, very Soviet. So yeah, very, very grateful for what she did. Now I'm kind of also inspired to kind of give them a better life in that regard. And I remember, so me and you DM'd a few times. I don't know if you remember this, but, and then you posted this goal setting workshop and I was like, I got to join. So I paid the $100. I joined. First of all, I've never done something like that before. So I thought it was absolutely amazing. And one of the goals was actually to have Aaron on the podcast. And I can't believe it's finally happening. So that's the power of putting something on paper, putting it on your thing.
I love that.
Aaron, man, first of all, how are you doing today?
Doing all right. It's a good day in Toronto.
Beautiful
Pretty
day.
Cold, but we'll take it.
Beautiful day. And so besides the introduction I already gave you, in your own words, I want you to describe who is Aaron Spivak as an entrepreneur, as a person, as a soul, as a spirit.
Yeah, I mean, my journey really always stemmed from just enjoying the journey and really having fun building things that people enjoy. I remember, I was that lemonade stand kid. I was, selling Pokemon cards. And I remember in high school, in like grade 5, grade 6, my mom would like knit these hats, these like knitted hats. And she would do them in like essentially custom color schemes. Like it can be like blue and red or whatever. And I would go and sell them to kids. And I had the whole school wearing these knitted hats that my mom would make for like $30. And there was a very profitable business because I kept all 30. She just like had to pay for the product cost herself, and it was free labor. But I just enjoyed it. I always thought it was so much fun when people would come up to me and ask me for stuff. And, I never really thought of it as a business. I never really thought of it as like, is this a career path? I always just, wanted to be the guy to provide whatever service I felt like was lacking, and either in my neighborhood or I used to clean windows. I used to, seal people's driveways. We were knocking doors, snow shoveling. So I loved it. I loved working. I loved getting paid, and I loved like that smile on people's face. So I think, that's my itch, and I've just kind of never went away. I just keep doing it over and over again for years.
So the thing when you say about an itch, like an itch has to originally begin. So I want to know, like, can you remember the very first business that you started? And I want you to describe like, what were the emotions of it? And how did you feel after you got that first sale? And was it addicting? Were you hooked?
Yeah. I mean, like it all is interesting because like I said, I never really thought of it as a business. I never sat down and said, I'm going to start a business, it really came from the fact where I felt, I never was really comfortable asking my parents for money. They worked really hard. My dad would work all day and night. There was 5 of us. It was a packed house. My mom had to manage it all, and I always felt pretty guilty just like asking. I played hockey for years. It was super expensive, and I wanted to buy my own sticks. I wanted to I wanted to go out for lunch every single day. I didn't want, my mom would make me lunch every day, and I wanted to go out for lunch. I wanted to, buy whatever I wanted to buy. And the only way to do so was to get money. So creating things of value so I can get money, and, that cycle of like value, sale, customers happy, I'm happy, then I can go and buy what I want to buy. Was really motivating, even like at a really young age. And I remember like the most subtle thing, just like going to Subway for lunch and like buying a footlong for like $10 and pulling a $10 bill out of my wallet and like just buying it, and the other kids had to like call their mom or like try to get it. I was like, I got this $10, so I always loved that feeling of independence and being able to do what I wanted to do without asking. And that's kind of where it started, but it never really there was never a point where I sat down and like drew up a business plan. I just really wanted to create value.
I want to take it back to, you said something I think that's very interesting to the audience, where you were one of 5. And in those one of 5s, were you firstborn, lastborn, fourthborn?
Yeah.
So, and I'm just completely like guessing right now. So it seems to me that like probably your parents were busy with the other ones. So were you much more of like an independent child? Were you spending a lot of time on your own, or how was like your early upbringing like that?
No, I mean, all of us were like together. We lived in the same house for a while. My 3 older brothers were born in Israel, so they were born 7, 8, and 10 years older than me, and then I was the 4th, and my little brother Mike, we were both born here, so there was like a 7-year gap. So they were like, that was also really advantageous to me to have brothers who were like, 7, 8, 10 years older than me. So, by the time I was already 10, 12, they're already in their 20s. So a lot of the value and teachings, I was able to kind of see them execute. I remember when I was like 7 or 8, I used to play hockey. I used to love to rollerblade, and I would like rollerblade around the neighborhood and like, flyer people's houses for my brother's window cleaning company, and he would pay me for that. And then, my brother used to promote for these parties at like clubs. And then, when I got older and everyone wanted to go to these like all age parties when we were like, I don't know, grade 9 or whatever,
yeah, I remember those. My God,
like Trick or Treat, Winter Bash, like that was me. But the reason why I was able to execute it is because I was able to tell my brother was able to tell me how to do it. Right. But I've already seen him do it for years. So I was like, I knew it was an existing business. I knew how to do it, and then the same with the party buses. It's like, so I was able to kind of fast forward my learning. But, we were all in the same house. We spent a lot of time together, and we did a lot of business together actually, but I was just able to like almost mature faster because I had, older role models in the house for sure.
And what impact did that have on you as a child, like seeing your parents like struggling per se, or coming in here and working hard all the time, all day? What kind of impact did that have on you?
Yeah, I mean, we all work really, really hard. I mean, my dad worked from, 7, 8 in the morning every day until 8, 9 o'clock at night, or you try to make like our hockey game or whatever. And he did that for, I think, probably 20 or so years. And, my mom ran an agency out of the house while raising us, and her agency was growing like rapidly, and so much we were able to see firsthand like just the sheer grittiness of pulling things together. And you also learn that like no matter how difficult times get, good times are on the other side of that. So you learn to push through difficult times. You learn that things are just okay, when things are going really well, we've learned to just be like, okay. And when things are going really bad, we've learned to just be like, okay, because we know that, this too shall pass.
In the beginning, were there a lot of times that happened? So what I understand is like when you're forming a habit per se, it doesn't matter how consistently you do it. It's like how much per day you do it to solidify the network. So my question on that is, did you go through a lot of hardships as a kid? And were your emotions like at first devastated and then afterwards you learned to kind of balance it out and control it? Or do you think there was always a bit of like a balancing force?
I think you always go through emotions. I don't think like you can learn to avoid them or by any means. Like, I mean,
in terms of how you dealt with them per se.
Yeah. Like dealing with them, I've learned over the years, of course, as you get reps, as you go through more things, as time goes on, you learn that, time heals all, really. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm also not a super emotional guy because I've seen the worst and I've seen what I think is pretty good as well. So I don't get too emotional. I'm really big on manifesting, as you know. I'm really big on planning out the future. I'm really big on, you have to know what the end of the story looks like. I'm really big on believing in the end of the story, and I'm really big on working backwards from the end of the story and then drawing for yourself what you think and, more importantly, what you feel is a clear path. Mm-hmm. So the reason why I don't get emotional about it is because typically I get emotional about things when I'm starting to craft the end of the story.
You're getting emotional? Okay. What do you mean by that?
So what that means is, for example, you said early on, one of my goals this year was to have you on the podcast, right? So this is actually this is an amazing example. So what happened when you made that goal? You sat down, you did the framework that I gave you. You envisioned what you wanted. You said, okay, one of those visions that made you feel good. You said, okay, you know what? I can get Aaron on the podcast. Awesome. You didn't know how. You didn't know how it was going to come about, but that was the emotion that you clicked with. And you said, getting on the podcast is going to make me feel X. Whatever that feeling was, that made you agree to doing it, right? So you wrote it down. Perfect. That's the end of the story. The end of that end of that story.
Oh, that arc kind of.
That's it, right? You
wow.
drew that up. Okay, but it's great. You felt it.
Of course I felt it.
It felt great. You got motivated.
Felt awesome.
Okay, perfect. Between that point, which was, I guess, what did we do it the first week of January, the last week of December? Between that point and now, we're in March, what has transpired? A million things in your life, in your day-to-day, in your business, in the approach, whatever things have happened, DMs, this, that, scheduling it, whatever has happened. So many trials and tribulations. Now you're here. Even setting it up. You had some issues setting up. Like, none of that mattered, because even if you felt stressed or excited or worried or, hey, it's not going to happen, maybe it's not going to work, hey, maybe it will work, or no matter what felt, now that it's happened, it's actually, I'm not taking it away from myself, it's actually not going to feel as good as it felt in January when you wrote it down.
Damn right.
Right.
Because I've thought about it so much. I felt that emotion so much. It's like, so this is something very interesting. I want to get your perspective on this. So the way that I see it is that your brain is like skiing down a hill. When there's fresh powder snowfall, you ski down the hill, it's harder. But then as you keep skiing down the hill, it gets faster and faster. So in the same way, when there's an experience, your brain forms a neurological network, and then when it freezes, it produces a chemical in the form of an emotion. So if you think about it, emotions are nothing but byproducts of past experiences. So in the terms of manifestation, in a more scientific manner, it's almost like instead of being, because eventually you start feeling, thinking, feeling, and then your thinking, your feeling make you do the same actions and behaviors. So what you're kind of saying is, instead of being pulled by the memories of the past, you're almost being drawn by the memories of the future, because you make them so real that the emotion is produced.
Yeah, you've already felt what it's like, right? So I don't, like, in the present tense, there's a wave of emotions every day. Sometimes you wake up tired, you're not feeling it, then you go for a run, or now you are feeling it. You get a text, bad news, worst day ever, get a random text, best news. Like you're constantly reacting to the emotions. And that's a very dangerous game to play, because then now someone else, external circumstances are controlling your daily emotions. For me, I try to remove that as much as possible from my life, because I plan tomorrow today. Mm-hmm. So, at the end of every day, you see this in the workshop or whatever, every single day is like, it's just dialed. Every single day is dialed. Before I go to sleep, I make sure that tomorrow's day is not only dialed, that I agree with it, because I don't want to do something I don't want to do.
So explain to me that agree with it, because I do this exact same thing, but this is a step that I'm missing.
Yeah, well, just because you have, this sounds like a good one. Just because you have a calendar that is full, a day that is jam-packed, doesn't mean you're productive. It does not mean you're productive. And it also doesn't mean that it's aligned with the end of your story. So one thing that people forget is the reason why I made everyone that did the workshop print out your mindset pack, or make it your background, or have it somewhere that you spend a lot of time, your desk, whatever, is because you need to check in with it. And you would be surprised, you check in March, and you're like, oh,
what happened?
Yeah, like, fuck, I said I was gonna, everyone does workout goals, right? I said I was gonna lose 10 pounds, or I said I was gonna, run a 5K in under 25 minutes. Well, we're 1/3 or 1/4 of the year pretty much complete here, and you haven't even signed up for a 5K. Yeah, you haven't even ran. You don't even have running shoes yet. You got this jam-packed day from 9 to 9. You're slammed with meetings and things and work and emails and all this stuff, but you forgot about what made you feel good when you closed your eyes and made these goals. Another thing is goals are also malleable. It's cool to change your goals. Right? That's another thing that people just don't.
And how do you know? Because this is something I'm struggling with right now. So how do you know it's time to change a goal?
It doesn't feel the same way.
So I'm trying to conceptualize. So is it like you at first you had this goal, and then as you're pursuing it, maybe it got you in the right direction, but then the feeling changes because you're like making corrections?
No. So for example, I had a goal. I wanted to speak at this specific conference. I'm a really big fan of the conference and all this stuff. So I made a goal. I'm going to speak at it. I don't know how, but I'm going to speak at this conference this year. It's it's in May. I'm going to make it happen. So I made it a goal, and I also made a plan. It's not just like I'm going to speak and then somehow the stars will align and I'll get an email saying, "Hey, you want to speak?" That's not how shit works, right? You got to put pressure. You got to push towards your goal. So I pushed towards it. I connected with a speaker organizer. I connected with an agent, and then I started thinking about it more. And then a month later, the agent's like, "Hey, you still want to do this?" And I didn't respond. And then he texted me. He's like, "Dude, are you still want to do this?" And in my head, I'm like, I don't know if I really want to do this. I don't really care about this conference anymore. Couldn't care less about speaking at this conference. And then I hit him up. I was like, "You know what? I don't want to do it." And he's like, "Cool, man. Thanks for letting me know." And it ended. And some people would be like, "Oh, I failed at my goal." And I was like, "No, I think I saved myself a ton of time, because I actually don't feel the same way about that outcome." Right? The outcome needs to move you internally, or else I probably would have spoke at that conference and it wouldn't have been a great keynote, because I didn't feel the same way. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that you strive not to be as emotional because things go happen up and down, right? But now you're kind of saying that there is a place for it, in terms because you just didn't feel it, right? Yeah,
but that's in a place that I control, right? So if you meditate, you control it. If you go on long walks, if you go for a run, any time when you are in charge of the feeling. When are you not in charge of the feeling? If someone sends you a text of bad news right now, you can't control the feeling. If someone sends you a text of great news, you can't control that feeling. There's external circumstances. If we go outside and somehow it's 35 degrees and it's glistening, you can't control that feeling. You're going to feel happy. If we go outside and it's like an ice hailstorm and you get hit in the face with pellets, you can't control those feelings, right? So that stuff I don't get emotional about.
What do you mean by get emotional about it?
I'm not affected by it. If I go outside and it's hail and it's horrible, I'm not going to have a bad day. I don't care.
So it's almost, I'm assuming you don't close yourself off, but you ignore it.
I just, I just move on to the things that I care about.
Got it.
The things that actually move me, right? Like someone can come up the stairs right now, you know, and look at me like, that is the ugliest guy I've ever seen, man. Like, your hair looks awful. That shirt looks terrible. I said, cool. I couldn't care less. You know, but for some people it might be a day ruiner. Hey, you know, a random person, you're fat, can ruin your day, right? So it's making sure, but like, I'm dialed with what's important to me. I'm working towards what's important to me, and then I know what's important to me. So like, for example, if someone, you know, if I gave that keynote speech and it was bad, and then people came up to me and said, hey, that speech was terrible, that would affect me because it was important to me. And I planned for it, and maybe I should have realized. So that's what I mean by it.
And how did you get this like internal locus of control? How did you learn these kinds of things? Because this is not, I've talked to a lot of people, this is not like very common knowledge. And it seems like it's spirituality mixed with practicality too.
I also just think it's grit. Like, at the end of the day, like, everything is hard. Everything is hard. My business is hard. Your business is hard. The business down the street is hard. The deli downstairs is hard. It's all hard. I've never had an easy business. It's always hard. So, and then it always comes with hard times, and it always comes with difficulties. And like, the only time, all we ever see is the glory or whatever. So you need grit in all circumstances. You got to be tough to push through, and things take tremendous amount of time. Like, to have a good body, it takes time. To be healthy, it takes time. To build a business, it takes time. And throughout that time, if you don't have an unwavering belief in the end of the story, you will get squashed, because tough times are coming. Terrible, terrible times are coming. Great times are coming too. But everyone can endure amazing times. But it's the difficult times, the horrible, horrible times that are coming for everybody, is where grit allows you to push through or not. And when you have unwavering belief in the end of your story, that usually is the pick that goes into the ice that allows you to attach to when you have a storm and you can hold through.
Believe the end of the story. I really like that. That's amazing. What a common problem that a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, have is like their relationship with failure is probably a little bit skewed. So I just want to know, what was in the beginning your relationship with failure, and what kind of things did you hear about it when you were growing up?
One thing that I learned really early on was to take a disproportionate amount of risk with the resources that you have. So when I was 18 and 19 and whatever, you know, starting Revitasize, you know, with my brothers and my mom, we didn't have much money at all, but we got a lot of time. We had a lot of time. That was our asset. We had no kids. We were all living under one roof, not a lot of bills. We had a lot of time. So that means we are scraping the floors, learning how to paint the walls. We're doing the work. And we were spending all of our time doing it, and it was risky because we could spend 10 years and it goes to waste. The next thing that I learned, you know, and vice versa, some people don't have a lot of time, but they got a lot of money. So then that's the asset they'll use. The next thing is, you must be extremely risky, but avoid catastrophe at all cost.
And what do you mean by that?
You can never put yourself in a position, no matter how old you are. When you're younger, in your 20s, you could take even bigger risks, right? Because you have less chance for catastrophe. For example, if you work from 16 to 21 and you saved $10,000 and you took all $10,000 and launched this business and it went to zero, you're still like 21 years old with like $0. Like, cool. Doesn't matter. Like, just go, like, get a job for a bit, save up for a year. Like, you're good. Everything's fine, you know? But if you're 40 and you have $10,000 and 3 kids at home, you can't go and risk those $10,000 because then people aren't eating and you might be out on the street. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you're younger, you have a different threshold for catastrophe. But you must avoid catastrophic failure. What is a catastrophic failure? In your 20s, financially, not really much, because you can always just bounce back, live on a couch, like super easy. But death can be catastrophic. So you must always avoid catastrophe and take maximum amount of risk. And for me, that's always worked.
And so my mom came from like the Soviet Union. The risk was the last thing on her mind. On her mind, the entire thing was security, security, security.
Catastrophe. So you must avoid catastrophe.
Exactly. But what I'm thinking is, how did you get your disproportional sense of risk tolerance per se? Because if your parents came from, a country and they're struggling, I would assume that on their mind it would be security, and that's what they would instill. So was it through your brothers, or was it just like internally inside you?
It's a good question. Like, what, like people want like a nest egg or like some sort of amount of money they put aside. Like there's never a number. I mean, like, you'll end up making more, and then eventually the number will grow and you'll want more. And like, it's never really enough. I mean, for me, it's just about having fun, building business, taking risk. And I don't really view it as like, oh, I'm taking a risk. It's like understanding what the pros and cons are. Like, what are the opportunities? Does it feel good? And then is the worst case scenario catastrophic? And if the answer is no, and the feeling is good, the story is good, I feel it, I'm excited about it, then I usually push forward.
What did you say? You said the story was good.
Yeah.
Is that the story you're telling yourself?
Yeah,
like,
the
about
story.
This?
Yeah, like if I look at an opportunity and I say, okay, what is the best case scenario for this opportunity? And I look at it and I say, okay, if that happens, how do I feel? And if I don't feel like, it's okay, like it'll be all right, like I'm probably not going to do it, right? Because I won't last the tough times with that kind of mindset. But if the end of the story is something that I just can't stop thinking about, I'm so excited about it, so I can't stop. Like I'm obsessed with it. Everyone around me knows. I keep talking about it. Then that is something that's worth pursuing.
What is your opinion on sharing your goals with people or keeping them to yourself?
I think it depends who. Like most people don't care, right? So you can share whatever you want. You probably post it on your Instagram story. No one really cares. But there's a few people around you that if you say a few things to, inadvertently they will hold you accountable. So for example, what I do is like, I signed up for a marathon in a month, posted on my story, like, hey, I'm going to run this marathon. And I saw a stat that less than 40% of men that complete a marathon completed in less than 4 hours. And I was like, okay, I've never run a marathon, but I don't want to be, I want to be like in the top tier of men that complete one. So I put it out there. I said, I'm going to finish a marathon in under 4 hours. And I had like, I don't know, maybe 100 or 200 people respond with like, advice and all kinds of different tips and tricks and whatever. And like in my head, I'm like, oh, now I got to run this marathon because I got all these people invested, to see if I can finish it in less than 4 hours. So, I think it's always good to share. And like, what's the worst case scenario? Like you don't do it and they're like, oh, you didn't do it. It's like, cool. It's my story.
Yeah.
So,
and then you get the added pressure to kind of propel you forward.
Yeah,
too.
it's awesome.
So it's like managing that.
Yeah, someone texted me yesterday saying like, yo, like what was your run time today? Like, are you progressing well? And I'm like, I didn't run yet, but I better run now. So, people get invested in it. And I feel like it's always good to share your goals. And also sharing your goals with people is a really good opportunity to see who's actually in your corner. And what I mean by that is that there's always two different types of friends. And when you're younger, unfortunately, you have the first type. The first type is friends that want the best for you.
Yep.
So you have a lot of that early days when you're like 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, because everyone just wants the best for you. It's fun. And then the second type, which is the worst type, is the friends that want the best for you, but as long as it's not better than them.
Yep.
And those people are unfortunately in everyone's life. And when I was 16, 17, 18, I called it the purge, and I went and I really wanted to figure out who was actually my friend and who was my friend as long as, they felt good about the relationship. And, that's why I'm really known for, like, I really have only 2 childhood friends, and, very, very lucky to narrow it down to that, where we don't compete. If anything, we, are more supportive than anything. And, the second person is very dangerous.
How did you purge them? What did you mean by that?
I would call them and say, hey, like we're friendly. If you ever need anything, you hit me up.
You straight up called them.
Yeah. I would. My famous line was, "You gotta gas your shitty friends." Yeah, I didn't want them around me because I knew that they did want the best for me. You know, God forbid if something were to happen for me, they would be there. Like they're good. They're friends. They are friends, but they didn't want the best for me if the best for me was better than them.
So it was like they expected you to play only the role they assigned for you in their life.
It's just an uncomfortable feeling sometimes when a friend, you know, blows past you by certain standards. You know, everyone has their own standard of what that means, but by certain standards, yeah. Like for some people, it's like, oh, you know, they don't want their friend to have like a prettier girlfriend. It could be as petty as that. For some people, it's like they don't want their friend's business to do well. For some people, it's like they don't want their friend to be in better shape. Like whatever it is, everyone has their thing, but you got to be very attuned to who in your circle genuinely wants the best for you no matter what, and who's mature enough to understand that the best version of you takes nothing away from them, and if anything, it elevates them.
And I would say, and tell me if I'm wrong, and I would say the only way to be able to be tuned into that is to genuinely want the best for them too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can't be the guy that doesn't want the best for them and expect
I want the best for you.
I mean, that's a given. But
and how did you call them? So what was that conversation like?
I would just be like, all right, so, you know, it wasn't always a call. Sometimes it'd be a text, but they would ask me to hang out or whatever, and I'd just be like, hey, I'm your friend. If you ever need anything, you hit me up. But like, we're not hanging out anymore. Like that's not a thing, you know. And they'd be like, what? I'd be like, it's just not a thing. Mm-hmm. Like, cool. There's no hard feelings. I still love you, still friends. I just need more space. You know, it's more of a boundary, and you know, it worked.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before, but that's very cool. So you're DJing 3 nights a week and you're struggling and so you're DJing three nights a week. And this is while you're grinding away at Hush. So tell us about that.
Well, this is pretty crazy time. So when I was 21, we had Revitasize. So Revitasize.
And you're 27 right now.
29.
29. Right.
So I was 21. We had Revitasize had 6 locations, or 22. We had 6 locations, and I was managing the one out in Mississauga. So that one would open at like 6:30 in the morning. So I'd get up at like 5:30 in the morning from Toronto. I would get there for like 6:15, get the coffees going. I'd work from like 6:30 or 6:15 when I got there until 3:30, 4, sometimes until 5 because I didn't want to deal with the traffic on the way back. I would then come back to Toronto, go to my Hush co-founder Lior's apartment.
Yeah.
We would then like hang out. Either sometimes we'd work out, we'd eat, we'd do whatever from like 5 to like 7, and then at 7 o'clock we'd rip out the laptops and we'd work until like midnight or like sometimes 1, 2 in the morning, and then I would like nap 4 hours, and then I would do the same thing over again. So
you're like in the Rocky montage moment.
Yeah, like Revitasize, you know, was a multi-million-dollar business. Hush became a multi-million-dollar business way too fast, and he had a software company, so that was like the days. And then on the weekends, because I wasn't really taking money from either of the businesses because we kept reinvesting. So like for Revitasize, you'd make a couple $100,000, and then you'd go and open a new location. You know, for Hush, we'd make a couple $100,000. We'd buy more inventory. So we took basically zero salaries from both. So in order to survive and pay for my life, I would DJ on the weekends.
So you're literally, it's like the Elon Musk when he like took out all that money, paid for the rockets, and then had to take out money for rent.
Yeah.
You literally had to work DJ.
I DJ'd. And it was so funny because I DJ'd for the first 2 years of Hush, and like we were already on Dragon's Den. Like we had a top 10 Canadian Kickstarter of all time. We were approaching a $20 million business by that point. And Revita had like at that point 8 or 9 locations. And I'll never forget, I'm DJing a wedding, and the groom like comes up to me and he's just like, is this like a prank? I'm like, oh, he's like, dude, I like just bought, like, I just saw you, like, he was so like just confused of like, why am I DJing his wedding when he just saw me on like Dragon's Den and like bought my product and like, you know, and I told him, and I was just like, dude, there's no shame, like $1,000, $1,000. And he like, honestly, people respected it, but yeah, like I was taking like selfies with people, and not because I was the DJ. So yeah, that was fun. I did that for 2 years, and it helped us reinvest everything back into all the businesses, and really was one of the reasons that we were able to grow so fast, is because a lot of people, in my opinion, handicap their business too early because they need to pay themselves, which is, again, back to the risk profile. What was a worst case scenario? I was 22, sharing a 1+1 with my buddy with limited expenses. What is the worst? There is no catastrophe, right? But if I was in my 40s with 2 kids or 3 kids and a wife and 2 cars and insurance and bills and school, you can't not take money out of the business.
Yeah.
Right? So people don't lean into the risk that they have available to them. And I did. Like, we were able to squash our competitors because I had the best margin. Why did I have the best margins? Because I had the lowest cap table.
That's actually very interesting, because like I think leaning into the risk is really is incredibly important. And so you're coming back at 7 p.m. You're working with Lior. What were you looking for in a partner for Hush, or how did you and Lior meet, and how did you know, like, this is my guy?
Lior and I met at a bar, which is interesting. We were watching someone that we both knew together, and a mutual friend of ours connected. I was like 20 or whatever, and he was like, you know, super interested in what I was up to, because he's like, you got like, he knew Revita. He was like, there's 5 locations. At that point we had like, I don't know, 50 or 60 employees, and he's just like, you have all these employees, like, how do you do this? You're like, you're so impressive. And I was like, cool, like, what do you do? And he was like, I got a software, I got 1 employee. And I was like, cool. And it just turned out that his business was just turning like insane amount of money compared to ours. And I was like,
wow.
I'm like, how do you do this? And he's like, the internet. And I was like, whoa, the internet. Forgot about that. So, you know, we just kind of became friends because we were both ambitious. We both dropped out of university. Lior was actually one of the motivating factors in why I dropped out of university. He kind of pushed me over the edge. Also somebody that I just like looked up to. I mean, I still do. I mean, I thought he was like one of the smartest guys, and super calm and thoughtful. And, you know, we're both actually, in my opinion, I mean, people won't agree with this with Lior. He probably won't even agree if he sees this, but you know, I think we're both crazy in our own way. Like, you know, I'm crazy loud and he's crazy like tactical. And, you know, we just became really good friends, and I was really interested in the internet and I really wanted to get involved, and he helped me launch the Revita e-com store. And a year later, he flew to Israel to watch me play hockey. And, you know, I just said, you know, we're going to start a business together. And he's just like, maybe, I don't know. Like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I don't know. And then a couple months later, I bring him cricket protein, like grinded up crickets. And
I just had a guy who did that on the podcast. Really? Yeah, I've had that stuff.
And we're about to do it. And he was just like, you know, I got a better product. I was like, what is it?
Oh, you were going to do cricket protein.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Cause that was like starting to take off around that time.
Starting to take off. And
then it just got screwed over. I don't know what happened to it.
You know, Lior convinced me otherwise, and you know, I got excited about the idea of doing weighted blankets. You know, I knew products really well. He knew internet marketing really well, and we hit the ground running.
So why blankets per se? How did that come to pass? Was it a numbers-based decision?
Yeah, it was purely numbers. We saw that there was 300,000 searches for weighted blanket on Google. There was 2 competitors at the time. We bought all the competitors on the market. They were all absolute terrible blankets. They had no weight distribution technology. They were impossible to watch. They sounded like a rain stick when you turned at night. All the beads were flowing. They didn't cover your toes. They looked horrible, but people were buying them because at the end of the day, people, you know, are insomniacs. They have stress. They have anxiety. They want a solution to their problem. And this was the idea. Weighted blankets was the idea to be the solution to that problem. The problem really became that the product was terrible. So we went out and I said, you know, Lior, I'm a product guy. I can help build what I think is going to be the best version of this, one that covers the bed, one that's easy to wash, it looks good, has zipper tech technology, doesn't sound like a rain stick, make sure that the weight distribution is even so you don't have 10 pounds on your feet and 3 on your leg. And we set out, and that was the first hush blanket, and kind of the rest is history.
That's absolutely amazing. And I've actually tried the hush blanket. Like the weighted, like when you describe it as like a warm hug that you're sleeping with the entire time. And that's exactly it. Like it's honestly, if anyone has it, it's absolutely amazing. So what are some of the initial, by the way, we have 5 minutes till 1. Do you want to go a little further, or do you have?
No, I have a one with, I gotta hit this one.
You gotta get it?
Yeah.
Okay, just before we get off there, I have 2 things. I have a promise that I made to you that you probably don't remember. I made a promise to you the first time we talked about 2 years ago so I started my own digital e-commerce brand. It was like basically a wood hat. Beautiful. And so right now I have one for you.
Oh, let's go. The wooden hat. Like a bamboo wood? Oh, nice. Let's go.
Check that out, baby.
Let's see this.
There's a little bit of a surprise in there for you too.
Oh, okay. I'm going to rip it.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's good plastic too.
Yeah, it's a nice little mailer.
Oh, nice.
Couple of stickers and look on the side.
Nice.
Look on the side on the brim.
On the brim? All right, let me open this hat.
Yeah, go ahead. That's cherry wood. Finally got those things made. It was so much harder than I thought.
Oh, it's actual wood.
Yeah, it's cherry wood. That's leather. It's waterproof. And then you got on the side.
Oh, sick.
I just so just yesterday I learned how to wood burn. So I had like 6 different hats. I was trying to figure out how to do the A and the S. So I finally figured it out on the side over there.
Sick. So you can't bend it because it's wood.
You can bend it, but it can hold like 50 pounds.
Wow.
50 pounds of weight, and it floats, which is kind of cool. And I know you're a hat guy, so I thought that'd be cool.
I am. Oh, I like this.
Yeah, it's real leather.
I like the leather.
Yeah, that was the iterations was crazy, but yeah. And then so that's cherry wood. Everyone's unique, obviously, because I know you're a hat guy, so everyone's unique because the print of it.
Wow. Oh.
And then I don't know how this happened, but it's lighter than a normal hat.
It's super light.
Yeah.
Wow. Does it look good?
Yeah, it actually it fits you. Huh? It has you the right curve. So I have to figure out the different curves, but yeah.
This looks like. Yeah, dude. Thank you.
And then I have one more thing.
Oh, it's dope. It's dope. The wood. A wooden hat.
Never cool to thought, right? So.
A wooden hat. It's dope.
So I got my mindset pack right over here.
Oh,
I brought it over here, and I want you to sign it.
Let's go.
But I want you to sign it with my pen.
Okay.
Here it is.
This is what I'm talking about. First of all, this is fantastic. This is... Wow.
But I read that every single day.
This is what it's about. Oh, I like it. Oh, so you used some AI. Very nice.
I used AI, yeah.
Nice. This is how... Okay. So you've got some dancing.
I gotta learn to dance.
Some sales taking off. Some dinners.
Gotta build the sales team.
Some money. Some travel.
Do some talking. Hopefully,
grow the podcast. Do a little bit of public speaking.
Shoot guns, ride horses.
Shoot guns, ride horses. You got some girls here. You want to reduce your expenses, and you want to pay off student loans.
Got to pay off the student loan eventually.
I like it. See, this is how you do it. This is exactly how. Freedom. Yes, I like that.
It's the only way, man. It's the only way. That's my biggest motivation. I just want freedom above all else.
You want freedom. Wow. This is yes, guiding principles. This is it. Wow.
I had to go full out on it. I had to
I am loving this. This is amazing.
So I've never actually used this, but let's see.
Oh my God. This is unbelievable. Nobody is good enough to wing it. take a solo trip to Peru. That's an amazing misogi.
I gotta go to Peru.
When is it?
Calling me. It's September.
There you go. Yes. This is awesome, dude. Good for you. You're going to have an epic year.
Brother, I
All right.
realize that this doesn't have this thing. I don't know how this thing works, but I want you to at least hold the Venetian pen.
Yeah, you gotta. Oh, you gotta.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So-
this. You gotta. Yeah, this is. You gotta like put ink in it.
I think it, like, I thought it was like, oh, perfect. Do you want
Yeah.
to try it quickly?
I don't know. Like I gotta like. Put it, scoop it, right?
You just dip it in.
Okay.
Oh, wait, that's the, sign on the inside. There it is.
And then you just think that works.
Yeah, that's it.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. So I think you have to use the tip.
Like turn it around.
Yeah, turn around. There you go.
Like this.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Dip it on there.
Okay. Almost.
I bent to try and put it in.
There you go. Done.
Perfect.
Wow,
Perfect.
that's sick.
Got that in Venice. I had to.
Oh, here. Give me a little bit more. Almost. This is crazy. Done.
I had to get the biggest one there. You know, you got to get the peacock.
Dude. That's awesome.
Thank you, brother. Listen, man, I had so many more questions to ask you.
I know. But
I know we're gonna have time. I'm sorry.
There's gonna be some amazing clips.
But if you're ever available again, would love to have you on again, and we can go a little bit more deeper in, man. But thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right.
Take all the time you need. I'm just gonna jump on that call.
Perfect.
Good work, brother.
Thanks, man.
Love it.